Some countries grow richer every day, building skyscrapers, expanding empires, gaining power. But others remain trapped in cycles of poverty, instability, corruption, and a destiny they never chose. Somewhere right now, a child is born into a future already decided, not by talent, not by dreams, but by geography. Why do some countries escape poverty, while others seem condemned to remain poor forever? The answer is darker, deeper, and more terrifying than anything you've ever heard. Welcome to Fact Flash. Before we dive in, hit the like button to support our research and subscribe so you never miss our deep dive global investigations. Because today, we're going to uncover the hidden forces, the invisible chains, and the global systems that keep entire nations poor, permanently. And trust me, the truth will shock you. Stay with me until the end, because the final reason is the #1 factor world leaders Dan T want you to know about. The reason no global superpower ever talks about, and the reason millions stay poor, generation after generation. Let's begin. Sometimes, poverty begins long before history, long before governments, long before borders. It begins with geography. Countries in tropical climates struggle with deadly diseases like malaria, dengue, and parasites, weakening the workforce, draining governments, and raising death rates. Nations surrounded by harsh deserts or mountains fight against impossible transportation routes. Shipping costs skyrocket. Trade becomes slow and expensive. Landlocked countries, those with no access to the ocean, constantly lose billions. They must beg neighboring nations for ports, pay huge fees, and suffer delays that destroy economic potential. Meanwhile, countries with coastlines thrive, sea trade booms, connections grow, economies explode. For some nations, nature dealt a winning hand. For others, the game was rigged from the start. A country's fate doesn't only depend on what's inside its borders, but also what surrounds it. If you're bordered by unstable nations, wars, refugees, arms trafficking, and political chaos spill over like wildfire. Think of Central Africa, the Middle East, or South Asia. When one nation collapses, 6 others can fall with it. A wealthy neighbor brings trade. A poor or dangerous one brings destruction. Geography doesn't ask permission. It determines destiny. You would think that having oil, gold, diamonds, or gas would make a country rich. But for many nations, it does the opposite. This is the resource curse. When governments discover oil or minerals, corruption explodes. Politicians steal. Corporations dominate. Foreign powers intervene, wars start. Dictators rise. The wealth never reaches the people. It becomes a magnet for greed, violence, and exploitation. Meanwhile, industries like manufacturing, education, or agriculture collapse. The country becomes addicted to one export, and when prices fall, everything collapses. Poverty becomes permanent. For many poor countries, poverty didn't start at independence. But during colonization, European empires didn't just conquer land. They carved borders that made no sense. They forced rival ethnic groups to live together. They built extractive systems, designed only to steal resources. When colonizers left, they left behind chaos. Civil wars, ethnic conflicts, weak governments, broken economies. Decades later, nations still bleed from wounds inflicted centuries ago. Some scars never fade. Corruption is the invisible disease that eats nations from the inside. When leaders steal, schools don't get built, hospitals don't get medicine, roads don't get repaired, investors stay away, innovation dies. Corruption makes the rich richer and keeps the poor exactly where they are. In many countries, corruption is not an occasional scandal, it is the entire system. People don't get jobs based on talent, but based on connections. And when merit dies, a nation dies with it. Some governments simply fail their people, not because of evil intentions, but because of bad policies, weak leadership, and poor vision. When governments fail to invest in education, ignore healthcare, mismanage money, print currency endlessly, restrict trade, ban innovation, or silence criticism, their people pay the price. The world moves forward, while they stay stuck in time. Some countries grow too fast, faster than their economies can support. More people means more demand for jobs, food, schools, healthcare, and housing. But when jobs don't grow at the same rate, poverty becomes unavoidable. Cities explode with overcrowding, villages empty, slums expand, governments collapse under pressure. It becomes a cycle. More poverty leads to more children, which leads to more poverty. Breaking that cycle isn't easy. Some countries never control their own destiny. Foreign nations dictate everything: who they trade with, what they export, how much they borrow, what interest they pay, and which companies can operate. Loans become traps. Debt becomes a weapon. Aid becomes dependency. Eventually, the poor country becomes a puppet, controlled not by its people, but by outside powers. No country in history has escaped poverty without strong education. But in many poor nations, schools are underfunded, outdated, overcrowded, or corrupt. Students memorize answers instead of learning skills. Teachers go unpaid. Textbooks haven't been updated in decades. The result, a workforce with degrees but without knowledge. And without knowledge, a country can never rise. This is the reason world leaders fear, the reason global powers stay silent. Poverty is profitable. There are corporations that earn billions mining cheap resources, millionaires who exploit weak labor laws, nations that gain power by keeping others dependent, banks that make fortunes from debt, politicians who benefit from broken systems. For some elite groups, a poor nation is a very profitable nation, and until that changes, some countries may never escape poverty. Not because they can't, but because they're not allowed to. But hope still exists. Every nation that escaped poverties, Singapore, China, Ireland, Estonia, proved one thing: history does not decide your future. Choices do, and maybe one day, the nations trapped in poverty today will rise higher than anyone expects. Poverty isn't destiny, it's a story, one that can be rewritten. If you believe every nation deserves a chance, don't forget to subscribe to Fact Flash, because the world is changing. And we're here to uncover the truth behind every transformation.